Welcome again to the next edition of Behind the Bench. I'm here with someone who I met, I guess now it's over 20 years ago, more than maybe almost 25 years ago. And I know, he coached me when I was in high school, and he also coached me when I was in university at the Great York University for 3 years. And not too long after that, he went on to start his own academy here in Canada called the A&B Futbol Academy, and has developed into one of the top programs in the province and in the country, with a great track record. And I'm sure he'll speak more about that. And again, not too long after he started his academy, I was a coach there, and I coached there for 6 or 7 years. I stopped once I ended up going on my own to open up my facility, and we've still been in touch. That was over 10 years ago. So Bassam Naim, welcome to Behind the Bench. And this is I think is a really interesting topic that we kind of selected together, about talent development and the difference between maximizing talent and teaching football. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you about it. And maybe if you'd like, just to get started, tell us a little bit about your own background and history and experience as a coach, a little bit about what you've been doing with your academy and what's happening now.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the introduction. I think I need to add a little bit to what you said. I think you forgot that we were together as well at the Kleinburg Soccer Club for a few years.
I forgot. Wow. You
It's all right. It's all right. Lots of information. Yeah. So other than having you as a player during the high school years, was a very interesting years. And then at the university as a great soldier for the York University program, to say the least. And then at Kleinburg, and then at A&B, and then seeing you actually doing what you're doing, and getting through life with some great stories and successes. So I'm very happy for you to start with, and proud of your achievement, and I wish you success. Saying that, I'll give you a little bit of an introductory or a little information about A&B Futbol, really what it is, and so on. The idea behind the academy system, if you want to call it, because that's what A&B came out of, the idea of the inception of a private academy system. It came actually from a European model. I was in Europe, and I don't know if you remember the name of Gérald Houllier, who was the head of the French Federation at that time. I'm talking 15, 20 years ago. And as well with Howard Wilkinson, from the director of the UK, the FA director in UK at that time. We spoke about that Canada need a little bit of a push, or some kind of a different taste. So we came up that we have looked into 6, 7 models in Europe, and we say we need to create some kind of a private academy system. It was an idea, just a philosophy, a different philosophy in terms of training young athletes. And this is really how the conversation started, and then it developed into a little bit of a bigger idea in terms of a competition and a league. And we had the Soccer Academy Alliance Canada at that time that was hosting multiple private academies. So that's in general where this concept of academies came from. A&B Futbol is actually a baby of that I guess concept. It's nothing other than as well a training philosophy. It's a belief. It's based on a true European model. I call A&B Futbol is a skeleton of a proper academy in Canada and in Europe. So we cannot, even though we call ourselves academies, the reality is we are a solid skeleton model of academies. Academies in Europe are way more advanced than us. I've been privileged to visit over 80 academies around the world. You name it, I can tell you the big name clubs. I've been there. I've seen what they do. I've talked to their directors. I've witnessed some session, and no disrespect to our academies or even our club or our soccer system in Canada. It's a day and night. That's the reality. So going back, it's a philosophy of training. that would really based on a concept of a good teacher with a good environment or training ground, if you want to call it, with good equipment, with hopefully a commitment from the player and their parents. What can we do with it? Because we don't know the result. Nobody knows the result, even at the highest level in the world. You can go to any professional club in the world. They cannot tell you if XYZ player will succeed just because they selected him or her to come to their fold. So, and we actually believe in that, and we do the same, and we are very direct and I guess blunt and open about that. We take your child, we provide a decent environment with a good teacher, with a good equipment, and years of development stages that you have to go through, and then we'll see what you can get to it. So that's really what A&B is. A&B is a philosophy based on a model of play that does not change at all. And it's been in the place since its inception. It can get better, but the basic principle of it does not change. It's based on a certain type of play on the ground, minimize the numbers of touches, the switch point of attack. So that's the philosophy of play. Diagonal pass. Only we use the long ball as a surprise for the opponent. That's very, very few long balls during the day, during the game, sorry. We do it on purpose to surprise, to break the counter, I guess, to create a counter attack and so on, but it has to be a technical, well-developed type of attack and so on. So that's the basic. And we've been around now, this year will be 15 years. You know, the great, I shouldn't say the great, the virus came and kind of, you know, put hold on all of us in the game. I'm trying to be sarcastic by saying the great virus here. It put us a little bit on hold, but eventually we're looking forward to come out soon, get back on the pitch, continue to work. And throughout the years, we've been privileged, truly privileged, to host a lot of coaches from all over Europe here in our academy, bring them to Canada, show them our country, our beautiful Canada, or more so the Ontario GTA side, show them what we do, learn from them, obviously, and exchange. The human exchange is extremely important for us. And we've been privileged as well to help develop, I don't like to say develop, maybe strengthen the base of multiple players, male and female, that have done a good, have actually so far succeeded or succeeding still in Europe. And we're very proud of that. On that note, I'd like to send a huge congratulations to all Canadian players in the last year and a half or so that really making us, making Canada proud. Even though it's on an individual basis, it's not a team group, but it's, you know, starting from Alphonso Davies in Bayern Munich, to Jonathan in Lille, just winning the league last week, to the young man in Wolves, to our boy Daniel Jevison at Sheffield and with England. I mean, on and on. We have girls playing professionally in Le Havre. We have one in Verona, Italy. And you know, really, really, really proud moments, not just from players that come from A&B football. It's any Canadian player that comes from any part of Canada. We're very proud of their achievement. I forgot to mention Atiba and Kyle Lawrence just winning. What's the name?
You talking about?
They just won the Turkish league as well.
That was
Atiba Hutchinson.
Yeah.
And there's another Canadian there.
Oh, really?
The striker.
Okay,
yes, from Sigma, actually. Started at Sigma. And
we're talking about Carl Aaron.
Carl, yes, thank
That's
you.
right, yes.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, they're so winning the Turkish league. So you know what? This is great stuff for Canadian soccer in general. But at the same time, it is individual. We need that. We're hoping one day we have the collective, meaning a true and true nationalistic system that from Canadian for Canadian, for all of us to work and continue helping these youngsters or the new generation for potential success or for more success in the future. So that's, for me, is very important. So congratulations to all Canadians that making headways or headlines and turning heads throughout the world. I'm getting I've never used to get calls before. I mean, I used to get calls from colleagues, but now I get calls from all over saying, you know what, we're open to looking at more and more Canadian players. And that helps because we're such a beautiful country with, I don't know, over 100 nationalities. So we come, I call it the definition for Canada. For me, it's the home of the world, where everybody from the world come here. Really, that's what Canada for me. It's the home of the planet. Yeah. And I love it. It looks like a beautiful salad with different colors and different ethnicities and the rest of it. So it's very exciting. So I'm very excited for all these Canadian boys and girls for their success, and I wish them continuous success, obviously.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I'm just glad you didn't say all that in French, because if you did, I wouldn't have understood it. But and I'll just say, just before we go on, because I took a lot of notes and there's lots of things I want to ask you about. Anybody watching out there, you know, if you're watching live, please feel free to ask questions. Remember, you can use the chat box or you can use the Q&A box. I'm sure, you know, you may have lots of questions for Bassam, you know, both about what he's talked about now and what he's going to be talking about. So don't be shy. We'll try to get to all the questions as much as we can. And I will say as well, just on that note about you know, the A&B Academy and my time there, that I really, you know, I know you spoke about sort of, you know, the methodology and the philosophy there. And I can honestly say that in my own career, you know, very soon after I left A&B, you know, with my business, was when I started to work at, you know, a lot of the higher levels, first in Canada, the national team, and then, you know, in professional clubs, both here and in other countries. And my time at A&B and, you know, learning with you and with, you know, that model and that philosophy, it really, really helped me in my career as a fitness coach, and in the end also as a coach, because, you know, I combined them both. So it's true what Bassam is saying about, you know, the importance of having a professional academy mindset, philosophy and methodology, and it really does help, and it helped me. Not just the players, it helps the coaches as well. So now I just want to go back to kind of the beginning of A&B, and I know you mentioned SAC, Soccer Academy Alliance Canada. How important was it, let's say, when SAC first started, that those standards that SAC tried to implement were in place? The standards around, you know, for example, in order to be a member of SAC, that the academies needed to have you know, a minimum training to game ratio, and to have an athletic therapist present, and some of the other standards. How important was that to you? And maybe can you speak a bit more about what that was like, you know, I guess about 15 years ago now? Yeah.
Sure. Those are the pillars of what the SAC, the academy system, is all about, anywhere in the world, to that matter. Like SAC was just a model. It was not like a in my mind, it was not something special. You know, I'm not trying to put it down. It was just a model that was copied from multiple systems throughout the world. We traveled Europe. I did myself, and you know, with other colleagues that they were there, we did as well. We looked at the French model, at the Spanish model, and the Dutch model, at the Italian model, at the German model, at the English model, at the Scottish model. We called their federation, and we get all these information and said, what can we make sense of it? How can we take a little bit of this, a little bit from here, and put a maple syrup on top of it, if that makes sense, you know, to Canadianize it. Really, that's the key of the academy system at that time. And we were extremely into the belief that will work, because it comes from the highest level of the world. I mean, who are we to tell people who've been producing players and doing better and winning World Cup how they can do it better? We need to learn from them as we continue, as on a personal level, as I continue to do as we speak. Every day I've learned from other colleagues from somewhere else in the world. Having said that, so it was a model that we put in place. I think the soccer public in Canada, I think, in all honesty, didn't understand it. It was kind of a shock, you know, when you're making a change. It was a shock. It's a model of taking an athlete and training them on a continuous basis for a year round, at least 3 to 4 times a week. And I believe they need 5 and 6 times a week. Never mind 3 and 4 times a week. We in Canada, we don't touch the ball enough. We need to touch that ball more and more and more. Technique, touches on the ball, they have to be in the million, in the trillions. And I think we do have some good, decent, young naturally talented. Get kids or young people, male and female, that they need to be free to express themselves. We don't do that enough. Very, very little people allow this self-expression and self-freedom to play football in a more attractive and sometimes magical way, you know? So going back, so that was kind of, you know, year-round development, minimum three times a week up to a certain age. It was 7 to 12, from 13 and older, 4 times a week. And here's the key. And that's another thing that we have a problem in our culture, the understanding that the small-sided game is a key for the success of the bigger-sided game. So the 11v11 game is nothing other than a different small-sided game. As the ball developed, as the ball moved from one side to another, it creates so many different games. 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, 5v5, 6v6, 7v7, 9v9. We never actually play 100% 11v11. Very rarely when you see, you know, this compactness and that the 11v11, it's always different battles going on the pitch. So I think we wanted to mirror that, and specifically that 8v8 game and the 9v9 game were so important to increase the touches on the ball for young players. For some reason, we're obsessed in our North American culture that we play the 11v11 game even at the age of 10 years old if we can. Yeah. You know, where the field is a humongous, where the, you know, I mean, you know, it's like you're giving your son who's 8, 9, or daughter who's 8, 9, your big shoes of, you know, 42 and 43, you say, go sprint with them. It's not realistic. Maybe there are very few athletes in Canada that are maybe early developed physically, that they can play the 11v11 game on an early age. But the younger one, they have to be given the opportunity to express themselves in the most beautiful way possible, with multiple touches on the ball, and make a lot of mistakes to learn from them. You're only going to learn if you make mistakes, not by yelling and screaming at them. You'll never teach them anything. Really.
It's funny that you say that, and maybe I'm dating myself now, you know, because when I met Bassam, I was a teenager, but I'm a bit older now. But we sometimes maybe we could take for granted that, you know, youth soccer in Canada always looked the way it looks now. And the truth is, what Bassam is saying is absolutely true. When I started playing, you know, in house league and rep in the late 1980s and early 1990s, there was no such thing as small-sided games. Everything was 11v11, even at 7 years old, even at, you know, under 8, under 9, under 10, and of course, you know, there's all kinds of other changes that you know were made, and you know, SAC was, and the academies, including A and B, were kind of pioneers in that. And you know, just right before we get into the topic, because we're kind of circling around the topic of talent development, but you mentioned that even now you consider A and B football as a skeleton of a professional academy in Europe. And I think I know what you mean, but maybe can you just elaborate on that a little bit? What do you mean when you say it's what you have is a skeleton of a professional European academy?
Sure. Well, I mean, it collectively in football or in soccer in Canada in particular, we get stuck on words. So we talk player development, elite, high performance, right? And when we say an academy, right away the switch will be, if you look at elite, you think, well, it's Juventus or Manchester United or Barcelona. Well, we're not even close to be there, right? So we need to be realistic. I find that we're not realistic enough to our own environment. So meaning, but I'm not the only one, but I am. What I say A and B is a skeleton of an academy is because I visited over 80 professional clubs throughout the world, and I saw what it means to be an academy, from the administrative side, from the financial side, from player recruitment side, from facility side, from training, from player development, from selling players, from playing on the first team. I mean, I can speak to you for a week on that one with details if you wish. We go one by one and dissect it. And to see how the European models are being successful to produce those young players that we watch on TV. It's not by chance. It's not by mistake. It's not by luck. I mean, luck is important, but that's just a small element of the whole equation. They're actually, they spend tons of money on coach development, player development, facility development, competition, and then highest level of competition to prepare those athletes to the elite level. So when I say we are a skeleton, we are. I'm not insulting ourselves. I'm just saying what's the reality of who we are versus the reality of the most advanced football nation on the planet. And I respect that. And I'm trust me, I'm aiming to get better all the time. I'm very much aiming to get better every day, even at my younger age now, as I'm getting younger all the time. Or older.
Well, I think we're starting to come closer to each other now. You were much older than me 20 years ago than now. So okay, so I want to get to the topic. There's some great questions which we definitely want to answer. But let's speak just about that. You know, our topic of discussion today, and maybe can you explain, because you know we're talking youth development, player development. What's the difference between maximizing talent and teaching football skills or soccer skills? What's the difference?
Sure. So let me just, and I hope I'm not controversial, because I'm always been, maybe, I'm not sure. I don't truly, and I'm someone who's, I would say, educated enough in the game. I'm not the best. I consider myself as an educated, solid coach in the game in Canada. I don't consider that we have what you call player development or high performance. We use those words, but we don't have the true sense of them. Because when you say a high performance, there's things that come linked to it, and you have to have them in order for you. For an example, academies in Europe, every year they go, and the FA, they go around and they actually grade them. They grade everything they have. They come, they send people there, they watch, they see the coaches, the training, they see the coaches' certification, they see how the coaches are doing the functional work on the pitch, they see the equipment they're using, the facility, and they grade them, and they pass and they fail, and sometimes they put them as A grade academy, B grade academy. That every country, they have a different, obviously, model. So I'm not trying to insult people. I'm trying to say, let's be realistic. The player development is a systemic, is a step by step. It's not a secret. It's step by step. Today you can go on the internet anytime you want, and you put player development in the Netherlands, and you can read about it. It's not secret. 20 years ago, there was no information on the internet. 15 years ago, it's very hard to find. Now it's everywhere. Player development in Italy is very clear. Player development in England is very clear. In Spain and Germany is very clear. So when I go back to your question, you said, what's the difference between maximizing talent and teaching football? I personally believe, and again, I hope I'm not insulting anyone or hurting anyone's feeling. Maximizing talent is when you are in an environment whereby you have your scouts out there going around and identifying naturally talented players around the streets and around the ghettos and around the favelas in South America and around street football in France. Quartier Parisien, if you ever heard of it, is the concentrated, the world place where all these players coming there to play street football. And you pick them, and when scouts talking to other scouts say, I saw this kid here and I saw the kid here, and they invite them into an environment that's already been proven to be productive. And these kids, so now you're taking natural talent and you're bringing it into a professional environment, and you're trying to maximize that. And even with that, there is no guarantee success.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I mean by maximizing talent. Teaching football is what you and I and the rest of the coaches, specifically, I know other countries too, but in North America overall. Now we have some levels that have improved, of course, in our North American continent, but so far we teach football. We teach the alphabet. We teach how you pass, how to receive, how to turn. In reality, those are not taught. Those are actually a natural movement and a natural technical abilities that are learned by nature on the pitch or playing with your friend. I don't know about you, well, you grew up here. I was not
Yeah.
born here, Richard, so you know that.
Yeah.
And I played on the streets. And I didn't have a coach till I was 14, 13, turning 14. And at 14, I was just somebody come and pull my ear and say, come, I think I like what I see. Let's take and see what you have. Right? So there's no one taught me to play. I just played with the ball. And the ball was my best friend. And the ball was something that other people are jealous of because they did not have a ball. So I was like kind of the guy that, oh my God, this guy has a ball. But I'm not saying that that's the only way to do it. I'm just giving you the definition of how I see it. So teaching football is teaching the alphabet of the game, which is all the technical element that goes from, you name it. There's at least 30, 40 topics that you can teach. So that's a big difference.
It's an interesting point, and you're right. You know, I grew up here, so that there wasn't a ton of pickup soccer going on, and I was introduced to the game probably like a lot of Canadians, starting in house league and being probably a better athlete than most other kids, getting into a rep program and more or less, you know, working with coaches. I think at the time, most of the coaches were probably, you know, a father of someone on the team. But eventually, you know, I would say whatever I did learn, I learned less from coaches showing me and more from watching, maybe playing with my friends after school, trying things on my own. And at the end, probably I was limited a little bit technically because I didn't have enough of that. And I think what you've touched on is that many people who grow up in other countries and then come here probably have a very similar story to you, right? Which is that they don't get access to any kind of coaching until they're in their teens, and they still become very good players. And so clearly you don't need good coaching at the youth level necessarily to become a good player if you can develop it organically. But I guess in Canada, we really can't do too much developing it organically. And that's where the Canadian model, and like you said, putting maple syrup on top of a European academy model is the way to go. Because if we tried to leave it to street soccer to develop our players here, we'd never develop any players because there is no street soccer, right?
Well, I mean, two things.
Yeah.
We can create the culture. See, we are, guys, or Richard, we are, Canada is one, if not the best country on the planet.
Yeah.
We were so blessed to live in this beautiful country. I love it dearly. I can tell you that. But at the same time, we need to be more realistic about our own issues in sports. We have great life, great standard of living, but in sports, we do have issues and we're not tackling them in a realistic manner. Again, that's my personal opinion. So when we say there's no soccer on the street, we can create the culture. We can keep promoting it. We can pump it. We can create outdoor and indoor small facilities for free for kids to go play from, 5, 6, 7, and they don't have to worry about paying hundreds of dollars and so on to play. Somebody asked me, how can you speak like that? You run an academy, in your private academy, you charge people. And I said, yeah, I speak because that's what I truly believe in. It's not up to me to build facility. It's up to our government to pump money into the game. And the Canadian government has to, because when you want to create a culture, it doesn't come from a coach in 2 and 3. It's actually come from the political establishment to start with. Then coaches like myself and yourself and the others that are listening and others around the country, they keep pushing that because that what may create hopefully more naturally talented player. So we need to create that culture. So for an example, I tell you what I would like to do once I have my home, and I know I'm trying to build a complex here for a football complex. I would like to have once or twice or 3 times a week just an invite, open soccer. You charge you nothing. Come and play. Come play with your dad, with your mom. I don't care, with your grandmother for that matter. Just come and play with your friend and touch the ball and don't worry about any cost. And then I want to see, can I, after 3, 4, 5 years, can I look at those? Can I pick up a few players that there will be, wow, a diamond in the rough thing? You know what I mean? Like a diamond that can take them and put them into the academy and do something with them. So that's one way of looking at it. So you create a culture, and then I find that I always say to people, culture, culture, culture. We are a very good country in creating parameters. You know, we want everything to be safe, everything to be organized, everything to be structured. and then we expect athletes to be creative. It just does not make sense. I mean, you're a father of a new child, right? Your daughter is, I believe, it's a couple years old.
Yeah.
If you just don't allow them to do anything, they're gonna grow up not doing anything, right? So if you allow them to experiment and touch and make mistakes, obviously within safe limit, because it's a child we're talking about.
Yeah.
Of course, they're gonna be, most probably there's creativity that's gonna come out of them somehow. So I think, yes, it is not a problem that we have a winter and it's a tough weather that we have in Canada, and it's a huge country. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we actually create certain element that will push the soccer players to get in and become go on the pitch, compete in a natural way, play in the natural way, and we can create that, but it costs money. I can guarantee you that you'll see better quality players in the future. So that's one. The other thing about talking about the system, I think as well, in keeping it in line with reality. Why are we not looking at the best module in the world and taking what works from it, from each module, what worked for Canada? Why we always say now in the last several years, all I hear is we need to create our own Canadian system of play and Canadian style of play. And I'm struggling with that. And I tell you why I'm struggling with that. It's because Canada is 120 nationalities at least. Okay, and the Italian has their opinion, the French has their opinion, the Portuguese have their opinion, the Spanish have, the Hispanic has, the Asian have their opinion, the English, the Turkish, the Middle Eastern. I can go on and on and on. So how can we we live in a great harmony in this country. God bless it, right? It's a great country. We live in harmony. We all have we need to respect each other. Great. So how can we use this model in the soccer? We can have 120 opinion on how to do. And that's what I believe today. We are a country with 100 plus opinion of how soccer should be. Everybody has an opinion. We need a national opinion and a national plan that comes actually by looking at top modules in the world, top nations, 10 top 10 nations in the world. Mm-hmm. What are they doing the best? Specifically at the younger ages, and how can we draw and create a map called Canada's football culture to improve youth in Canada and the game and so on and so forth. And I think, and like I said before, just bring a maple syrup, put those things together and put some maple syrup on top of it. And not only this, you need to convince people throughout all the provinces. This is not just for Bassam and A&B or Richard or Johnny. It's actually to everyone in Canada, whereby you say, this is the model. We want to do that. And we want to try it for 10, 15 years to actually see the outcome of it. Because you need at least 10 years to create a generation of players, right? So, and you try it. Look, we are 15 years old. A&B football is 15 years old. When I started A&B football, I'm not going to lie to you, and a lot of people laughed at me and said, "Are you crazy? You're going to actually think that you can make players better and they play in Europe?" I'm not kidding. And then are you out of your mind? And you're going to get paid and you're going to create a job for yourself? I said, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do all that. Today, I don't laugh back at people, but I would love to tell them that if you have a model and you truly believe in it, and you invest into it from a player improvement and coach education, and you work together and you truly believe that's going to work, eventually something will come out. I don't know what will be. Now, I wasn't expecting that I have a young man who was here now being successful to play in the Premiership and scoring goal and, as the youngest player. And that's amazing. That's great. And I wish him all the best. And I hope more young Canadians will do that. This is not just about A&B football. We need more players. But I'm excited. The flame is amazing, that ignites your flame to say more. I want more. And that's what we need as football educators. We need to be always saying we can do more and we can do better. We're not just, a lot of people say, Bassam, you speak very loud. And that's, I know. and I say, yes, I speak very loud because I invested in my own country in so many different ways. And I truly believe, you say, but you complain about our Canadian system. I say, but I supported 100% at the same time. I've done all my coaching education in Canada from level 1 to 2 to 3 to the C license, to the B license, to the A license. And I've supported the national team by going to every game, male and female, bringing players. Of course I support the system, but I love my country and I want better. And I know we can do better. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? I just want better.
I would say there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's a great example that you said, and it's true. I remember attending many games with you, so it is true. Now I have to I want to shift gears just because, and I think, well, we're not really shifting gears, but just I want to get to some of these questions because there's some great ones, and we'll start with Horst Schuler. Does the academy, and I'm assuming he's talking about your academy, Bassam, does the academy work in partnership with a club? In Quebec, academies are not recognized by the federation, and the groups are not included in the championship. They participate in tournaments or friendly matches only with other academies. I'd like to know how the academy works. I think he's asking about your academy, but academies in general, right, in Ontario. So, yeah.
Right. So just to answer his question, that's a good question. We have we worked alone for at least 12 years at the beginning of since the inception of SAC. It's only in 2000, I don't recall exactly what year, 2017 or 2018, that we start, I think 2017 more so, where we start working with the provincial body. That's because FIFA made, I forgot the circular, there is a memo from FIFA that all players in the country must be registered under the FIFA rules or with their national organization. And that's what initiated actually the working with the provincial body. And since then we've been, doing some, I guess, parallel, even some deep talks and discussions. So he's not the only one. I hope that will change throughout the country, because I think we all need each other. Nobody has the right answer. I can truly tell you here in front of you, I don't believe that the academy system in Canada is going to make the game better on its own. I don't believe the amateur club and system, even the academy system, is an amateur system, even though we have some professionalism in it. I don't believe the community club system is going to make the game better. I think collectively, we all make the game. If we work together collectively, we all can make the game better. And we need, obviously, our CPL, which is the Canadian Premier League, to be successful and to have more and more teams and to create more jobs and attract more kids that want to pursue their career in the game. And I can tell you, we are, like I said, we are a great country, people. And I am sure we can do better than what we do. I am certain. If I am the little guy, I can do it in my own little environment with all the difficulties that I have. I'm sure there's other people that are out there capable, and I'm certain of that.
I believe there are as well, and it leads to another question. Joseph Lucito, who asked, what's the difference between the OASL, so that's the Ontario Academy Soccer League system, and the OPDL system? OPDL being Ontario Player Development League. In your opinion, what program do you prefer for a high performance player? So, you want to try that one?
Actually, it's a big question. I'm going to try to be as logical as I can be. The OASL is a system of, I guess, subsystem came out of changing the SAC system into an OASL that's running under the provincial body. The OPDL is, in my mind, and they took the SAC, the old SAC standards, they packaged it in a provincial and in a more, I guess, local and provincial way. I believe I don't support any of them. I don't support in the sense of, I don't think one is better than the other in that sense, not support. I support the game. I support
you don't prefer any of them.
There's no preference. It's actually more so the way it's been done, it's more so consumer driven, meaning I think the provincial program came to a conclusion, or the provincial body, sorry, came to a conclusion that, you know, maybe we should just provide all these avenues or options and let the consumer decide what works better for them.
Yeah.
In terms of a service and in terms of maybe, I don't call that an elite, or if you want to call it elite level of, or a professional level,
high performance.
or high performance level.
No,
I don't.
okay.
We're all kind of a service that we provide something. That's not what elite and professional and academies and the rest of the world, that's what it means. So to answer his question, I don't have no preference. It is truly, I believe it's driven on the consumer to say, or it's given to the consumer, go ahead. If you have the right, you're spending your time, you're spending your money, go ahead and research whatever fit your family and your kid's life, go ahead and participate. Now, some people say to you, well, Richard is better than Bassam, Bassam is better than Richard, Richard is better than Bassam and Johnny, Johnny better than Bassam. Those are our opinion. I would say what I know for fact, that the OASL has not been proven to be any quality yet, because it started, stopped, started. So,
yeah.
You know, it hasn't been given enough time to be tested. The OPDL has been around now 5 or 6 years. I don't know what the result that came out of it in terms of players and true quality players. I don't know. I don't hear it quite a bit. I know that from our private academy system, we do have 2 or 3 organizations specifically in Ontario that has done some decent work in terms of players. I don't want to say we're better. That's not what the point here. But at least we find our system has done some work. I know from the past, I can tell you that historically, and I was part of, like, see, people think I'm just an academy person. I started like everybody else. I volunteered at Thornhill Soccer Club. I volunteered at Unionville Soccer Clubs. I volunteered at Ajax Soccer Club. That was of 8 years of my life as a young coach. Then I became a technical director at North Mississauga Soccer Club full-time, my first full-time job in the game. Then I was at Kleinburg Soccer Club as a technical director. So I've been in the system. So I've been step by step in our Canadian system. And I know historically, the OYSL, if you remember, Ontario Youth Soccer League, the competition was decent enough. And I think it was better than what we have today in some ways, believe it or not. That's my opinion again. And there are some players that came out of our old Canadian system with older coaches, without mentioning their name here. We don't want to insult them because they're much older. I don't want to, hurt their feelings by saying they're much older. But there are some good players came out. But it's always on an individual basis, and that hasn't changed, believe it or not. Even though I believe that AMB football has now close to 12 players in different places throughout European countries, and we take credit for that, but that's not good enough. We need to have A&B and BBC and TTC and Vaughan Soccer Club have players, and Woodbridge and everywhere, and Unionville and Ajax and out east, out north, not just 4 or 5 organizations. That's not good enough. We need all of us to work together. So I don't know if I'm answering his question. I hope I am. I do not have preferences, and I think I don't believe in the providing the consumer, even though it's a choice and we live in a free country, but football has to have a module, has to have a national module. We all should be working underneath that same national structure for the benefit of the game for all Canadian kids equally. That's what I mean.
Well, it's an interesting point, and could even be a much longer discussion as well, which maybe we don't have time for. But I will say, because you mentioned the OYSL, and if we go back to before SAC, before any of these programs came up with putting standards in place, and professional, as we talked about, professional paid coaches at the youth level or whatever. I mean, maybe it's ironic, but if you go back to that era, let's say the 1980s and 1990s, I mean, our national team was actually much more successful. You know, so it's not to say necessarily that you know, without standards-based programs you can't develop players. I don't know if you agree with me, Bassam, but I would say, you know, maybe what's happened is the rest of the world improved at a greater rate than we did. Do you agree with that?
Well, I
Here's
what I want you to know. I think you need to know, here's what's lacking all the time. What is the objective? What is the target? You know, if I give you and I say you were better and I was better from before, but what was the nation's objective? Is it our objective to make it to the World Cup, or our objective just to go through an experience of a World Cup? To just go and compete, and if we make it, good for us, and if we don't make it. So if our objective to make the World Cup, what does it take to do that? Male and female. How much money does it take? What do we need underneath it, right? So that's what I'm talking about, a culture, and a system. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have a system, okay? I don't want to insult, please. If somebody listening from the national program, they think I'm trying to be insulting. I'm not insulting anyone. I don't think we have a system that's for everyone equally. That's what I mean. And we don't have a system that eventually will take us on a consistent basis to compete on the highest level in the world. I mean, if you go to Germany, if you go to France, if you go to Italy, and I can tell you, I've been in all their federation, and I watch, my God, they know the targets, they know what they want, they know how they want to achieve it, there's a plan, and everyone must follow. There is no I like and I believe and I think and my opinion. Your opinion is not important. You follow. Otherwise, you drop. You're not part of it. But we need to have something that really, not just every 3-4 years we have a blueprint, or we start talking about, oh, well, this is now new. And this is every 2-3 years we have an idea. And every 6 months we have a new idea and the rest of it. And in my mind, nothing has been working properly. So I'm not saying that there's one thing better than the other. But I can tell you what works. Again, I'll repeat it. If we have a national system for everyone and we all believe and we work underneath it for the benefit of the players, and coach education has to be one of the very, very, you know, one of the highest on the agenda, not just player development, coach education, because we are lacking big time in that area in Canada. And I can tell you, I'm a witness for it. And I have 3 different A licenses from different places on the planet that I don't use. I work with the youth, right? Yeah. So you know, yeah, but it's good. And I continue educating myself, and that has to be a priority, coach education.
Well, I agree with that too, and I know I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but you know, clearly, you know, standards in terms of, let's say, the national system and the way we want, you know, youth clubs, academies to do things is important. That's a standard that's important in terms of how they train, how they teach, everything else. Standards for coach education, and you know, and that includes, let's say, both making the coach education as high quality as possible, and also I think, you know, again, if I'm paraphrasing, trying to make sure that the coaches that are working in clubs, academies, and you know, the higher level programs meet a certain standard, that they need a, you know, whatever it is, a B license or an A license, and they need to continue to do continuing development is also very important. And you know, so I think this all comes back to standards. And I know there's one more question I want to get to, but I wanted to just touch on a point that you made. You know, of course, you've mentioned A&B has a pretty good track record from being a small group of players and not being around that long, of developing players that have gone on to play at the highest level, male and female. And there are some other academies that, of course, also have a pretty good track record. And, you know, there are some clubs that do as well. Is it possible, maybe, if we're talking about, you know, standards for clubs, and of course, you know, we know that there is the club licensing program and these things. Is it possible that one of the ways that we can try to hold an academy or a club accountable is based on the number of players that they do end up developing and becoming professional, for example? Is that something you think is a good idea?
Can you repeat that, Richard? You came broken up a bit.
I'm sorry. So what I'm saying is it a good idea to try to look at each club and academy and kind of evaluate them based on the number of players that they've developed that have gone on to become professional or national team players? And maybe you can
Right.
do relative to the total number of players that they have if you want to make it fair. So that's something you think is a good idea.
It shouldn't. And honestly, I mean, it's a good question, but it shouldn't be that way. And like I said, it should be a one system that we report to, not we get evaluated in the sense of, okay, well, they're doing good, then it doesn't mean that everybody can use what I'm doing and it's going to work for them.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So let's take an example. And you know me, I travel to Europe quite a bit.
Yeah.
In particular, France.
Yeah.
France is known as the #1 country in player development in the world. Okay, and according to FIFA, it produces players on a systematic basis through their academies and being sold throughout Europe. Brazil being the natural environment. You know, they don't develop players in Brazil the way they do in Europe. Okay,
Yeah.
it's just a natural environment. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Europe. And if you look at that, they all work under the same system. Every club has a little differences, a little tweaking, a little this. It's kind of the the PSG way, if you want to call it. But it's no different than the national system.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, you're having your coffee with 1 sugar, 2 sugar, maybe 3 sugar. Maybe you'd like to add milk to it, but you're having the same coffee.
It's still coffee. Yeah.
If that makes sense, So, and that's what's lacking. I don't want to say that, well, come and do what I do and that's going to work. Because what I do might not be. But if there is in place a plan for all of us, I can always work within that plan and tweak a little bit with the little taste that I have, maybe add a little sugar, like I said, with the coffee, and maintain that A and B taste in it. But at least I'm working in a national system. It's a huge topic, believe it or not. That's a huge topic, and it has to be addressed eventually at one point, that we're all working for the same objective. The question is, what are they? We need objectives, and we need to be serious. If there is an objective out there, not just qualifying to the World Cup. Is it just qualifying once? Is it qualifying every time? What do we need to continue getting those players to take us there? Do we have that system underneath? Do we have those clubs that working day in and day out to get those players? Or are we going to depend on the couple of guys that succeed here and there in Europe and bring them in, and then, okay, we might have a good year? Is that how we're going to do it? I don't know. And one point that you mentioned, it's very important. A player development, if we want to use that word, playing development, I don't believe, and I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just telling you what I truly believe. Everybody say to me, Bassam, are you crazy you're saying that? I'm not kidding you. Even A and B football, I don't believe we are true developer of players. We do not develop players. We give them a solid foundation at a specific age, from a technical base to some kind of a fitness base or a physical base, to some kind of a tactical base with a good social environment, family, parents, and a psychological support to a certain degree. We give them those, but that's not true player development. I know people say, Bassam, you're discrediting yourself. I'm not. I'm proud of my work, but I'm very realistic from when I compare it to the highest level in the world, because that's what we use. We use big words sometimes. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. You're someone in the game. What's the difference between a technical director, director of player development, director of high performance, director, lead coach? I mean, I'm reading around 15, 20 titles in soccer in Canada. I have no idea, and I've been working in the game 20 years. I have no clue what they mean.
Neither do I. Neither do I.
What they mean. Yeah. Because I've never seen the definition or the application for it. Yeah. I'm just giving you.
Sometimes the job description could be whittled down to arguing with parents.
I say to people, I'm the garbage man, and the coach, and the marketing, and I'm okay. It's my choice. Yeah. But what are we? We need to know, where are we? Titles is honestly not taking us nowhere in my mind. Yeah.
Well, good point. And I do want to get to a few more questions before we run out of time. A good one from Bassam. I hope I'm saying that right, Bassam. So he says, not all kids will make it to the big leagues. what kind of other skills are you teaching kids to take with them for the rest of their lives? And I think this is an important one because
absolutely,
99% of them aren't going to become professionals. And you know, what do they get out of all this time and effort and money and everything that they commit to training and playing in the academy?
We believe that football is a way to create the good citizen in the future, not just the footballer. One part of the soccer philosophy that we have, or the academy philosophy, is the one that has what it takes to go to the highest level. Then we're going to push them. The one what it takes to go to the university level, we're going to push them. The one what it takes to the professional North American level, we're going to try to push them that way. But we know the collective are playing, and most probably they're just going to end up being the fan of the game. But or maybe a coach in the future, or maybe a doctor, or maybe an investor. I don't know. Everybody, maybe, you know, a physiotherapist. Look at yourself. I mean, you've done great so far. So, and like I said, I wish you the best and continuous success. Saying that, so what we teach them, we ask them from the age of 7 to dress equally, to respect themselves, to shake hand, to look the coaches in the eye. We give them certain etiquettes that are surrounding the game, not just purely for the game of soccer. We give them respect, we get respect back from them. And that's in our way, and we keep talking to them about, you know, behavior, you know, education, respecting each other, you know, respect the humanity. We in our academy, we have I would say over 60, 70 different ethnicities. You know, that create a beautiful, like I said, the beautiful salad, and everybody is respected equally. So we're helping to create, I'm not saying we are creating, we're helping to create the good citizen for the future. And I think that's as well, and it could be not only a citizen for the future, a good fan in the game, and someone who will support the game for all their life. And that's what we need. The game is so beautiful. That's why we call it the beautiful game.
That's I would say that's beautifully put, and I agree. I think it's true. Maybe I'm even a good example of it myself, because of course a lot of players who aren't good enough, I'll just put it that way, aren't good enough, can't make a living playing the game. There's lots of other things you can do, you know, to stay involved, and coaching, and training is one way, and it is a nice, rewarding way to make a living, as opposed to something else where maybe you're not doing something that you're as passionate about, right? So
absolutely. And here's we need to respect everyone's success equally. That's another thing. I don't like Daniel Jebison alone just because he's playing in the Premiership. I just like what he achieved, and that's good for him. Wishing good luck. And all the other 200 players that I have that been somewhere, I respect their achievement equally, and that's create as well another area of, you know, self-respect, respecting other, and working with people in the future.
Very good. So I'm just going to finish. Tony LaFerrara, I know he's your old friend here, and an old friend of ours at the NSCAC as well. He says, with reference to your comments about philosophy and structure, I agree in part. Other countries' philosophies and structures are also influenced by their own leagues, by the way their professional teams operate, by their own soccer culture that has been developed and created over many, many years. We have nothing like that here. We're still too far behind in all these areas. It is and will continue to be a struggle until we establish our own leagues. I know you spoke about that a little bit with the CPL. I agree. I think it's so important that league survives, thrives, and gives an opportunity to Canadians. And we even had another comment before. I just want to make sure I give everyone.
No, Tony, he's dead on.
Yeah, he's dead on. Yeah, and Jimmy Karam said, you know, more or less on the same note, I would say, was about, you know, what's a step that academies and clubs in Canada can do to move from a hockey culture towards more of a football culture. And maybe we don't need to go from hockey to football. Maybe we have room for both. So can you maybe comment? Because I know, Bassam, you said earlier about we can create culture. Can we create culture? How can we do that? And then we can wrap it up because it's past 3 o'clock.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Look, guys, it's very simple. Canada is a very young country. Okay, we're 150 odd years old, right? Not much. I remember immigration started in 67, right? In 1967, that's the year I was born, actually. So to expect a professionalism in Europe, and Tony put it dead on. I mean, Italian soccer history, the culture, the history of culture in Italy, it's hundreds of years. It's not just, same in England. How old is the English soccer? How old is the Scottish soccer? How old is the German soccer? I mean, Barcelona is over 100 and odd years old, right? Just the club itself. So that's going to take, I think why we are struggling with that is because we come from all over the place, from all over the planet, all over the world here, and we want better. And we want better, and we want to mirror it to what we see on TV. And we don't realize that it's going to take a lot of time to do it. Here's my problem with that, or my issue with that, is we are smart enough. We are wise enough as a country. We are smart enough, wise enough, rich enough. That's another very key. Rich enough, full of natural resources, lands, people with solid finances. I think we can make the game faster, better for us. And that's where I think I have an issue with that. That a guy like me who's an educator, he has to think about a business model so he can survive. Business model doesn't come from the educators. The educators get actually hired into specific business models. So in sports, so they can help players become better.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem. I go back to the first thing I said. Our government, and it's a good government. Canada is a great country and have a good government, but I don't see the support in sports as it should be. They should be dumping a lot of money into all sports, specifically the one that have lots of kids in them. I mean, soccer, just a few years back, we were close to 1 million registered players.
Yeah.
And our government should put a lot of more money and resources and facility and the rest of it in the hands of people. And when you combine that with very solid coach education and jobs in the game and a professional league, and you just give it 10, 15, 20 years and you'll see something better. Certainly you see something better. But that has to be the proper combination of things. I mean, if I am just very technically skillful as a player, but I have no attitude, no heart, no brain, I don't care about my physical abilities. So it's great that I can do great tricks with the ball. I'm never going to be a top level footballer. So again, what's our objectives? What are the objectives in the game? And how can we achieve them? What's the plan to get to that objective? And in all honesty, we certainly need one. Objectives and a plan, a national one.
Okay, well, I think it's a good point to stop on. It's a little bit past 3 o'clock. I'm going to try to paraphrase and summarize because I know Bassam. I've known him a long time. He talks a lot. So do I. But today I let him talk a lot more than me. This is how I'm going to try to summarize. So in Canada, okay, so there's a clear difference between maximizing talent and teaching football. And just because of the way it is here in Canada, we're a little bit more teaching football than we are maximizing talent. Right. And that's because even some of the top academies here are more or less still, we can see them as more of a skeleton of what exists in a true professional model. And we want to try to get there. But until we get there, we may not be able to really maximize talent in that way. We need a nationwide objective and a nationwide system that everybody buys into. And of course, that involves standards for many different categories, including training and coach education and so on. And then a big component to it and to the success that we can have in developing players has to be changing culture and maybe even creating culture and creating a culture. And maybe that includes help from the government, resources from the government as well, to try to allow us here to do the best job we can, let's say, to develop players. And whatever we create here, there has to be a sprinkle of maple syrup on top, right? So,
absolutely. Doesn't work differently. Yeah. Doesn't have a taste.
Yeah, or else it's not Canadian, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll thank you so much, Bassam. Maybe we have to do this again because obviously we ran out of time, so there's a lot to talk about. And I'll thank everyone else for tuning in and watching. I'll finish just as we always do about the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada and you know, just asking for a little bit of your help to allow us to continue to do this. We're doing every week. I mean, tomorrow we have another big behind the bench with Bob Lenarduzzi and several members of his team, that the Canadian men's national team that he coached, that was very close to qualifying for the World Cup. We've got a whole host of other topics and amazing guest speakers lined up for the next few months, and we're going to keep going with it. We need your help. If you're a member, thank you very much. Of course, you know, consider renewing. If you're not, consider becoming a member. You know, tell your friends, tell your colleagues in the coaching community. All of us are just volunteering our time to do this. We want to continue to do it. And you know, again, talking about standards and coach education, this is an excellent way for us to do it. So, you know, please help out, and you can go to, I'll type it in the chat here, but you can go to www.nscac.ca/join for all of the information about membership. Thank you again, Bassam. I don't know if you have any any last words.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we certainly hope that together, and I repeat, together, we can make it better. And I am certain and confident that we can. And hopefully we will at one point. And yes, please support the association. I've been a member of NSCAC for, I don't know, close to 30 years. So, but I'm still younger than Tony LaFerrera. So at that.
You're gaining on him like I'm gaining on you.
No, I love Tony. He's great. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for your time, Richard.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you.